Ready the shuttle for launch. Now, all we need is a little Energon and a lot of luck.
More than you imagine, Optimus Prime.
Many millions of years ago, on the planet Cybertron, life existed. But not life as we know it today. Intelligent robots that could think and feel inhabited the cities. They were called Autobots and Decepticons. But the brutal Decepticons were driven by a single goal: total domination. They set out to destroy the peace-loving Autobots, and a war between the forces of good and evil raged across Cybertron.
And Transformers. And as INN's Christy Whitaker reports, store owners are having a hard time keeping up with the incredible demand.
These kids can tell you what's hot and what's not for Christmas, and awesome might be the word to describe the popularity of these robot action figures. And remember, it's only October.
They'll have an ad in the paper and you run to get one and they're already gone, and there's not that many in stock anyway.
I have no idea what I'm doing here.
How about you? Can you figure it out?
No, I'm somewhere between a truck and I don't know what.
I am Optimus Prime.
It's clever the way it transforms from one thing to another.
Autobots, transform and roll out.
Depending on their size, the toys range in price from $6 to $35. Both have command centers and comic books which explain how the creatures came to Earth and which are the good guys and which are the bad.
Decepticons, transform! As you command, McCrumb. I am the leader of the future! You couldn't lead androids to a picnic.
Last year, Coleco Industries, which manufactured the hot-selling item Cabbage Patch Dolls, rang up orders totaling $60 million. But this year, the GoBots and Transformers will give those dolls a run for their money. Both companies say they've already had orders totaling more than $100 million. What's particularly desirable about such a toy?
You can make them into anything you want. It makes some weird shapes. That makes your imagination run away.
It was September 1984. I'd just come home from school. I was in 4th grade at the time. I was in the living room playing with my Star Wars action figures, as you can see, which is what I still do most days. Anyway, on the television, there was an announcement that a new animated movie was about to start. I didn't think much of it, and then this happened.
More than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers. Robots in the sky. The Transformers. More than meets the eye. The Transformers.
After that, everything was different. The way I looked at things, the way I looked at media, everything that didn't have a transforming car or plane just kind of sucked. So, we're gonna go forward, and we're gonna watch a children's cartoon from 40 years ago. So please be warned. Spoilers. We begin on Cybertron several million years ago. We are first introduced to Autobots Wheeljack and Bumblebee as they steal something called energy pylons, which will later be used to power a starship.
Hey, let's get back to Iacon.
Load up!
I bet Optimus Prime will be glad to see us.
As they escape the storage facility of their enemies, a patrol of Decepticon seekers spots them and transforms to pursue.
After them!
Because they are essentially the good guys, Wheeljack and Bumblebee simply drive away, bypassing the enemy blockade, and escape to a city called Iacon. the Autobot stronghold.
We better report back to Megatron.
As they arrive, they are spied by Decepticon Soundwave, who is transformed into a robot telephone pole, or I don't know what. Then he releases his minion Laserbeak to observe the Autobots. Inside the stronghold, Autobot leader Optimus Prime explains to his troops that if they don't find a new source of energy, there's no chance of winning the ongoing war with the Decepticons. The time to set out is now.
When do we start the search mission?
Soon as you're ready to launch.
And with that, Laserbeak returns to Decepticon headquarters, where we meet many of our key villain players, such as loyalist Shockwave, who is left behind as Cybertron's guardian.
Fear not, Megatron. Cybertron shall remain as you leave it.
Excellent.
And of course, the treacherous Starscream, always plotting to steal command of the Decepticons away from their notorious leader, Megatron.
Starscream. Only a select few ever leave.
My time will come, Megatron.
Never!
The Autobots launch their ship, the Ark, into deep space, leaving Cybertron in search of resources. The Decepticons launch soon after aboard their own ship, the Nemesis. This also establishes the running motif throughout the series that most Autobot bases and vessels have interiors of a gold finish, whereas Decepticons use a metal alloy that is something of a purplish color. In an astronomically unlikely event, 2 asteroids crash directly in the Ark's path. The Autobots find themselves forced to blast a clear way through. Shortly thereafter is when they realize the Decepticons have been in hot pursuit the whole time. In a sequence that in no way rips off the opening scene from Star Wars, the Decepticons deploy a tractor beam to lock onto the Autobot ship and board it. Once inside, the 2 factions get into a knockdown, drag-out brawl. As they duke it out, the damage from their battle causes both ships to lose control and plummet towards prehistoric Earth below. The Nemesis is lost in the fall, not to be heard from again until Season 2. We follow the Ark's descent, continuing down through Earth's atmosphere, crashing into a prehistoric volcano on the surface. All of our characters seemingly dead, we come to our first commercial break. When we talk about Transformers G1, or Generation 1, we're referring to the original Transformers, which involves 3 separate versions happening at the same time. They all involve the same major characters, the same key events, but ultimately they're just contradictory enough to be 3 separate stories. They are the original animated cartoon, which we will be focusing on in these videos, the Marvel comic, and the UK Marvel comic. Neither comic adaptation shied away from death or the lasting consequences of war. Some key events and details were the same, however others drastically different, such as Shockwave's loyalty to Megatron. We've seen the Autobots come to prehistoric Earth in search of resources, but in the US comic, cataclysmic events of the Great War had caused Cybertron to shift away from its original orbit. Now, an approaching meteor storm threatened to destroy the planet, unless Prime and his crew were to intervene. Despite their success, the Decepticons attack just the same once again, leading to the Transformers crashing on prehistoric Earth, only to be revived in similar ways. We return 4 million years later. The remains of the crashed Autobot ship stick ass end out of an active volcano, and nobody has ever spotted this for 4 million years. Anyway, the active volcano suddenly erupts, causing a vibration that activates the still intact systems aboard the Ark. The Ark deploys several satellites known as Sky Spies to scan the globe and find different forms that fit each fallen warrior.
Repair!
Once on his feet, Skywarp proceeds to revive Megatron. They then revive the rest of the Decepticons.
Megatron, my leader, we are alive again.
In classic obtuse villain form, Megatron leaves his fallen foes' remains behind. Starscream, however, decides to be a petty jackass, firing on the Ark.
Starscream, save your energy. The Autobots have taken their last flight.
The new vibration causes Optimus Prime to fall into the scanner's range. Our hero comes to life once again.
Thanks.
Meanwhile, the Decepticons set about their plans to return to Cybertron with enough energy to conquer the entire planet.
Soundwave, prepare plans for a new space cruiser. Starscream, convert the area for construction.
With the aid of Rumble, they set out.
Rumble, activate pile drivers. Operation Destruction.
Let's do it!
Back at the Ark, all of the Autobots have been revived and given new Earth forms. Optimus, believing the Decepticons must also be searching for energy and a way back home, sends Autobots Hound and Cliffjumper to scout for more information.
Scout the area. See if you can locate the Decepticons.
Just turn me loose, Prime. I'll sniff them out.
I'm going too. I want to boot some Decepticon right in his turbocharger.
Easy, Cliffjumper. Just find them. We'll deal with them later.
Starscream orders Rumble to create a small earthquake in order to break new ground. Hound and Cliffjumper catch up to the location of the new Decepticon base. From a cliffside viewpoint, they overlook the construction. Hound, the expert spy, decides to listen in on Megatron's conversation.
I will plunder Earth and steal its precious resources.
We can concentrate the energy into Energon cubes and store them in the new space cruiser.
Cliffjumper, what are you doing?
Cliffjumper fires on the Decepticons, endangering himself and Hound. The Autobots must flee as Laserbeak is deployed to hunt them down.
What is that thing up there?
I don't know. You don't give out, do you?
Despite a daring escape, Hound is driven off the edge of a cliff, bringing us to our second break. Oh, Cliffjumper, will you ever learn to slow your roll? Anyway, I want to talk about what Soundwave just said. He mentions Energon cubes, and that's the first time we ever hear about them. But overall, Energon is huge in almost every version of Transformers lore. Energon is the lifeblood of the Transformers race. Originally portrayed as a Decepticon method of refueling, eventually the series would retcon this detail, showing Autobots harvesting and collecting it on ancient Cybertron of the past. In the futuristic year of 2005, our heroes have established Autobot City on Earth. There, Energon is harvested naturally, using Earth's renewable resources. As a storytelling tool, Energon serves as a symbol for energy, fuel, medicine, nourishment, ammunition, and even in some cases, currency. Plus, there's an episode coming up in Season 2 where the Decepticons drink too much of it, and they totally get their buzz on.
This stuff's the greatest! Those were the good old days back on Cybertron! Didn't have to sneak around in these ugly Earth disguises!
It's important to acknowledge the grown-up real-world events that were happening at that time that led to inspiration for this story. In an ongoing Cold War, patriotism was flying high here in America. However, world events of the previous decade had led to an energy crisis that was still fresh on everyone's mind. And even as some prospered here in the United States, we were no longer blinded from ongoing famine beyond our borders. Art imitates life, and the story of the Transformers begins. The forces of good and evil locked in a war over vital resources.
Where'd they get you?
Eventually, Hound is rescued by Cliffjumper and Autobot medic Ratchet.
Train.
Can you transform?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry, Hound. It's my fault. I shouldn't have fired on Megatron.
You shouldn't have missed, you mean?
Huh? Yeah, right! Holler! Pull him up!
Whoa, wait a minute. Who's Holler? I don't remember any Autobot named Holler. I bet we're gonna have to look into that. Let's get back to the cartoon, though.
Hey, what's that?
Let's find out.
Using Reflector's camera form, Thundercracker spies humans coming into their vicinity. Soundwave deploys Ravage to seek out and stop them from reporting back to others.
I don't understand it, Joe. Looks like a tornado hit this place.
I don't like it. Something's wrong. Real wrong.
Look out!
Naturally, they are scared shitless and drive away. Optimus gathers and deploys a strike force to pursue and take down the Decepticons.
We're going after them.
Also, I really like this animation.
Pow! Trailbreaker! Wheeljack! Ironhide, Mirage, Sunstreaker! Sideswipe! Autobots, start your engines! Ready, Prime.
Let's roll.
We are introduced to our human allies, Spike Witwicky and his father Sparkplug, working on an oil rig.
Give me a hand, Spike. We gotta raise this bit. Flush it out.
Right, Dad. I'll get the baler.
Dive! Dive! Look, up there!
Out of the blue, the Decepticons arrive. The humans begin attacking them, without even asking who they are, which is dumb. The humans are powerless to stop them.
Stop! Let go of my dad! I think it's really funny when Spike gets smacked around. Let's watch that again. Plundering oil, the Decepticons convert it into Energon cubes.
It's the Autobots!
Soon, the Autobots arrive and engage in combat. Nope, they arrive by flying here. Now, at long last, robots start punching and shooting each other again. As the battle ensues, the Decepticons get what they want and flee. In his departure, Megatron leaves the humans and our heroes in peril.
So long, Prime. Have a nice swim. Here's something to keep you warm.
They fly away. No Autobot flies after them. For reasons.
Help! We can't get out!
Somebody save us!
The fire! It's coming closer!
I can't lift it. Too heavy. Grab onto me. Keep your heads above water.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
It is a world transformed, where things are not what they seem. It is the world of the Transformers.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers. Robots in disguise. The Transformers, more than meets the eye.
The Transformers from Marvel Comics.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers, robots in disguise.
We're under attack! It's the Decepticons! Get more Autobots!
The Transformers, more than meets the eye.
Transformers from Hasbro. We now return to the Transformers.
My arm! It's jammed in here! I can't get it out! I'll get you loose! Don't panic!
We return to the aftermath. Brawn first cuts free Autobot Huffer, and then they fly away.
Trailbreaker!
Here, Prime!
Prime commands Trailbreaker to use his force shield to put out the fire. Wheeljack assists him using his fire extinguisher. They both take flight. Remember when the Decepticons flew away? Optimus is able to free Spike and his father. He then swims them to safety with the assistance of Jazz's grapple hook.
I don't know who you are, but you saved our lives.
We're Autobots. We're from Cybertron, a planet far from Earth.
Another planet? That's awesome!
Those who tried to harm you are called Decepticons. We must stop them before they destroy your world.
Can we help?
We are the only ones who can stop the Decepticons.
But my son Spike and I know more about Earth than you do.
Maybe you can help us.
Sound logic indeed. We're off to the races.
Autobots are a highly advanced form of robot. I don't really know if they're from the past or the future, but they can think and have real feelings.
Falling for Soundwave's disguise, Spike brings the cool new tape deck inside the Autobot base. Spike then takes a walk with Trailbreaker, asking him why they transform. They meet up with Hound and Mirage.
Spike here wants to know how we transform, Hound. Easy, like this.
Incredible.
Now watch this.
Who's he?
Nobody. He doesn't really exist, Spike. It's a hologram.
What other tricks can you do?
Try this one, Spike. Now you see me. Now you don't.
Hey, where'd Mirage go?
Over here!
Disappearing. That's the best disguise of all.
Spike and Hound take off on a joyride.
Ravage. Enter Teltran 1. Acquire knowledge of Earth's resources.
Spike returns, discovering Soundwave.
What's going on here?
Ravage. Eject. Eject.
Soundwave manages to escape, but Ravage is taken prisoner.
There he is! Fire the net! We got him.
Sherman Dam is the largest in the Western Hemisphere. The hydroelectric power plant has a capacity of 1,750,000 kilowatts.
Good work, Soundwave. We are going to create a tidal wave. One that will send enough power surging through that dam to make all the Energon cubes we need. We attack the dam at sunrise.
Decepticons arrive at the dam. Soundwave dispatches Rumble to create tidal waves.
Rumble. Activate pile drivers. Operation Tidal Wave.
Hey, Ed, look at this game!
Inside the dam, the human
It's
workers
gone
discover
crazy.
that the overflowing
Something must be
river is
wrong.
overcharging the generators.
The river's rising! Man your emergency stations!
Back at the Ark, the Autobots become aware of the situation.
Yeah, a tidal wave. The power output's 10 times normal.
Could be the Decepticons, all right. I'll tell Prime.
Megatron and the Decepticons raid the power plant as they please.
We gotta get out of here! She's gonna blow!
So Spike and his dad are our first human allies. And human allies tend to be a staple of most Transformers stories, all the way back to the beginning. Whether they're the main protagonist, or in most cases, just a fish-out-of-water perspective that the audience can relate to. Variations of the Witwickies appear all through Transformers lore. Our father and son team of Spike and Sparkplug are warm, loving, idealistic heroes, an easy lens for kids to see themselves in the adventure. The father-son dynamic was a bit different in Marvel Comics. Sparkplug and his son Buster didn't see eye to eye on the Autobots. After a Decepticon attack at a local drive-in, Buster brings the injured Bumblebee home to his father's garage for repairs. Sparkplug fixes the wounded alien, gaining favor with Optimus and the Autobots, who petition for his help. Less optimistic, this Sparkplug was a realist, who feared his son's involvement in a war of giant alien machines. You can't really fault him, that's just good parenting. It also fueled exciting story tension between father, son, and Autobots. In later years, a toy version of Spike came packaged as a Headmaster figure with Autobot Titan Fortress Maximus. In order to tie this into the comic, Spike suddenly appears out of nowhere as Buster's long-lost brother.
I tell you, it's gonna blow! This whole place is gonna go sky high!
Perfect! The electrical output is at its peak. Exactly where I want it. Quickly!
The Autobots arrive at the dam, having driven a long distance. Once Megatron spots them, he fires on them.
You're too late, Prime!
And then they fly over to him.
Be careful, Hound!
Underwater, Hound tries to stop Rumble, but his pal drivers are too strong, and he nails Hound in the robo-junk.
Let's go!
Bumblebee and Ironhide set about making a path, cutting a new river which channels the water overflow safely away from local homes.
Hey, wow, thanks, neighbors!
Meanwhile, flying Autobots raid the dam and kill Starscream and his doppelganger twin, even though Starscream is still alive anyways. Also, why did they drive here? Prime and Megatron engage in one-on-one combat using their iconic battle axe and mace.
You destroy everything you touch, Megatron!
Because everything I touch is food for my hunger! My hunger for power!
No! I'm going to end your hunger once and for all.
Hey, where's Hound? Oh!
And once more.
Hey, where's Hound? Oh! Help! Help!
Megatron wallops Prime, knocking him into the river.
Use the scrap metal now, Prime! You'll never stop me!
The Decepticons fly away with their Energon, and not a single Autobot flies after them. So several years before Transformers exploded in sales, obviously the biggest toy in the market was Star Wars. And one of the reasons it was so successful is because it was a marketing tie-in to one of the most successful movies of all time. So then Transformers shows up, and you might be wondering, okay, where did all these robots come from? The birth of the action figure began with the success of the 12-inch G.I. Joe and similar Army toys from the 1960s. However, patriotic American war toys were less popular in foreign countries, particularly in Japan. There, the G.I. Joe mold would be imported to become a clear see-through robot character known as Henshin Cyborg. As conflicts around the world escalated into the 1970s, petroleum costs skyrocketed as it became more scarce. In turn, the oils used to create plastic for toys needed to be conserved. Instead of canceling the successful line, the Henshin Cyborg was instead shrunk down to create the Microman line. American kids of the 1970s would have known them as Micronauts once they were imported. With their success overseas, the Microman line evolved into tiny riders of large vehicles that could change into robot warriors. Many transforming robots began showing up in the years ahead, and it was only a matter of time before American toy companies jumped on the trend. That's when Hasbro teamed with Japanese company Takara in order to import two of their changing robot lines, Microchange and Diaclone. Together, these two toy lines would be given a brand new storyline, and be rebranded as the Transformers. Despite Tonka's GoBots beating into market by a matter of months, Transformers was still a smash hit the moment it reached shelves. The war between these two brands was on. Despite GoBot's noteworthy success in sales, after a year and a half, Transformers had won control of our imaginations. Not to mention our parents' disposable income. We return to Optimus, who is saved by Jazz's grappling hook for the second time this episode. He should really learn to swim. Spike swims down to help Hound. Despite a noble effort, Hound must help Spike back up to the surface.
Maybe we should repair our ship and go back to Cybertron and forget about the Decepticons.
We can't do that, Mirage. If Megatron succeeds here, he'll be impossible to beat on Cybertron.
But we're not fighters like they are, Prime.
We must have courage, Huffer. We can't ignore the danger. We must conquer it.
Meanwhile, the Decepticons go on an energy-gathering crime spree across the globe. Would have been really helpful if the Autobots could have flown after them, though.
What was that? Starscream! What in the universe are you doing?
Testing the Energon cubes. They work!
You only proved your defective mentality. Now we need 2 strikes before we'll have enough energy to return to Cybertron.
What's the...
Soundwave informs them that rocket fuel can be used as, wait for it, as rocket fuel.
Rocket fuel is another highly concentrated form of energy.
Yeah, that's what he said.
If you're looking for resources to make rocket fuel, and you discover that there's rocket fuel, why don't you just go get the rocket fuel? What am I missing here?
Spying on the Decepticons, our heroes learn of their plan.
That's what we've been waiting to hear. Let's radio Prime.
Don't push me, Megatron. My desire for power is as great as yours.
Power flows to the one who knows how. Desire alone is not enough.
Time makes all things possible. I can wait.
Megatron commands his forces to assemble, and then immediately tells them to not assemble.
Strike force assembled.
Scramble!
At the Ruby Mines, Megatron gets a raging villain boner as they plunder the crystals.
Ah, this place is magnificent. Unbelievable.
Enough here to power the entire planet of Cybertron.
How do you make crystals into fuel? So the Autobots arrive in Burma, either having flown or driven, or maybe they took a Zeppelin, whatever. Instead of attacking directly, they decide first to send Bumblebee and Sparkplug to plant a bomb.
Explosive in here to bury them forever!
I'll stick that bomb right under their nose gear. Hop in, Sparkplug!
Once inside, our heroes overhear Megatron using vulgar metaphors.
This is the last load. Get ready to pull out.
They plant the bomb with an absurdly short escape time, and are immediately caught by Skywarp and Thundercracker, who proceed to taunt them for well over a minute.
Let's give Megatron a little present.
Maybe we ought to wrap him up and put a little bow on him.
Optimus Prime approaches the cave himself, and deploys his mini counterpart, Roller, in his one and only appearance in the entire series. The bomb goes off, creating a cliffhanger for our second episode, and we are unsure of what happens to our heroes and villains. But something tells me everyone's going to be okay, and they're going to keep selling these toys.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers,
Attack the Autobot commander! Call in the Decepticon leader!
The Transformers, more than meets the eye.
Transformers, sold separately from Hasbro.
Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers, robots in disguise.
It's the Decepticon communicators! Get more Autobots!
The Transformers, more than meets the eye.
Transformers from Hasbro. We now return to the Transformers.
We return to Optimus Prime tumbling sideways down the hill for a very, very, very long time.
Let's get him up on
His comrades swoop in to help him.
Left. Careful. Easy. Easy. Good. Prime, can you transform?
I'll try. I don't know if I can do it.
Come on, Prime. You can do it.
With a little convincing and coaxing, Optimus Prime sheds the drama queen act and transforms back into robot mode. Shortly after, we discover that Roller is A-OK.
Down but not out. Roller's one tough little Autobot.
And then he's never heard from again. Oh, and it turns out Sparkplug and Bumblebee survived somehow under all that rock.
Yes, I thought we'd had it.
We've got just the trick to do it with, too. There's enough explosive in here to bury them forever.
Bullshit, dude.
Leap and lubricant. It worked! We're free!
Surprise, surprise! The Decepticons blast their way out of the mountain.
To the Decepticons! Forever!
The Decepticons! They're escaping!
Ironhide is a little pissed off about this. And after 3 episodes, Optimus finally explains...
They're too fast for us in the air.
I see, so I guess that was the rule? So Ironhide decides to fly after them anyway. Bluestreak flies after him as well.
Bluestreak, no!
Call it off, Ironhide! There's too many of them! They're out of reach!
Stop yapping, Bluestreak! This is my fight!
Make it our fight!
This is poor reasoning.
Skywalk to Megatron! Request permission to teleport! Permission granted! Teleport and destroy!
Skywarp demonstrates his teleportation ability, and essentially whoops Ironhide's ass.
Ironhide!
Ironhide lands exactly where the Autobots were, even though he flew forward many, many miles away from the Autobots.
Where'd you get hit?
Back in somewhere. Think my linkage is busted.
I'll check it.
Optimus Prime gives classic sage advice.
You gave us all a pretty good scare. It's been worse. I remember the time on Cybertron. Save the war stories, hotshot. Just remember, there's a thin line between being a hero and being a memory.
Maybe Ironhide's ready for a nice, cushy office job.
Ain't no way. Soon as Ratchet tightens a few bolts, I'll be right back in action.
While guarding Ravage, Mirage and Hound come up with a plan they want to share with Optimus Prime.
A hologram?
That's right, Prime. But I mean a big one.
What did you have in mind?
A gigantic illusion that'll trick the Decepticons into coming to us on our terms. Teletran 1's located a secret supply of rocket fuel.
Where?
Not too far from here, about 140 kilometers due west.
Then maybe we can go back to Cybertron?
Why, there's enough rocket fuel at that base to make 4 trips to Cybertron. Come on, let's tell Ironhide. Make him feel better.
But what about Ravage?
Don't worry about him. He's not going anywhere.
Eventually, Ravage is allowed to escape in order to pass false information back to the Decepticons.
It's Ravage!
He's getting away!
After him!
What happened?
Ravage. He escaped.
Perfect.
But when he does, Hound is completely confused by it, even though he dropped the key on purpose.
The rocket base is 140 kilometers due west of the Autobot camp.
The Decepticons learn of the rocket base, and Megatron makes plans to attack. As always, Starscream takes a moment to run his mouth off, and eventually gets bitch-slapped by Megatron.
I've made my contribution. You've also made clear your desire to replace me as leader of the Decepticons. Mistake number 1. It's time for a change, Megatron. It's time for action, not words. I am the leader of the future.
You couldn't lead androids to a picnic. How can you pretend to lead the Decepticons?
Megatron!
It's empty!
You failed to dispose of me when you had the chance, Starscream. Mistake number 2.
I shouldn't have done it. Please don't shoot! Megatron! Megatron!
We attack the rocket base at sunrise. You failed to dispose of me when you had the chance, Starscream. Mistake number 2.
The next morning, Hound creates a holographic rocket base. The Decepticons arrive and attack.
Decepticons! Attack!
So, now, you've seen all 4 commercial bumpers that are used in Season 1 of Transformers. There are 2 outros and 2 intros. They feature Jazz, Optimus Prime, and then coming back from commercials, we feature Starscream and Laserbeak. Now, at the beginning of this episode, we also took a look at the opening title sequence of Transformers that I love, and there's a different one for every season, and we'll show the other ones as we get to the other episodes later on. But it is important to note that the opening song is written by a recording artist by the name of Ford Kinder. And Ford Kinder, you may or may not know, is responsible for the theme songs for some of your other favorite childhood cartoons. In ascending order of madness, we have My Little Pony, we have Jem and the Holograms, Visionaries, something a little twisted, the Inhumanoids,
Inhumanoids! Inhumanoids! The evil that lies within!
and of course,
Yo-Yo! We'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe! American hero! G.I. Joe is there. It's G.I. Joe against Cobra and Destro, fighting to save the day.
Hey, that one looks kind of fun. Maybe we should do a video on that sometime. But for now, Transformers. As the Decepticons strike, the Autobots move against them, quickly realizing the whole thing was a big ruse.
Hold it! Stop fighting! What in the universe is going on here?
Scrap! Springs! Junk!
We've been had.
Did you really think you could fool me by allowing Ravage to escape? Did you?
Go on, Megatron. You're in the driver's seat.
While you and the other Autobots have been fighting a bunch of loose screws, the real Decepticons have been at the real rocket site.
Unidentified aircraft approaching, sir. A lot of them.
This is Cape Carlson Control Tower. Identify yourselves. Identify. Over.
They're moving fast, Captain.
Repeat. Cape Carlson to aircraft. Give us an ID and a flight mission. That's an order.
Look, they're coming down.
Sound the alarm!
Soundwave informs Megatron.
Course back to Cybertron charted. Space cruiser fueled and ready for departure. What are your orders, Megatron?
Prepare for blast-off!
We have come to a moment of truth. The Decepticons are in position to return to Cybertron. We have no choice but to attack them directly. But this battle will be most dangerous, so I ask for volunteers.
Start your engines!
Megatron once again flexes his villain boner.
It is time to return to Cybertron and conquer the Autobots forever!
Autobots, transform!
The Autobots arrive and move in. The entire original lineup of characters gets into a big-ass fight with little to no consequences.
I owe you one from Sherman. Damn, Rumble!
Hound at last gets a chance to get back at Rumble. Rumble in turn learns he's just a little bitch. Remember, kids, always beat up on those smaller than you. Also, grudges are very healthy. Prime and Megatron have it out again, and the animation looks pretty good considering the budget.
Fire! It's just you and me now, Megatron.
Then you better get some help, Prime.
Oh no, I've been waiting for this chance. Only one of us is going back, Megatron.
It won't be you, Prime.
You're finished, Megatron. Call it off. Call it off.
Never, Prime. You and every last Autobot will be destroyed. To the space cruiser!
The Decepticons escape to their ship, not flying, but using an elevator. And of course, the Autobots do not fly after them, or climb, or call the elevator down. They just stand there and watch.
Blast off!
As the shuttle takes off, Optimus Prime shows one of 3 rare instances of extreme anger.
Megatron!
Speaking of the 1980s in America, once upon a time there was this guy, and he made a movie with a monkey. And then he became the governor of California. And then after that, he became president of the United States. These are historic facts. In 1981, the Reagan administration lifted heavy regulations over children's programming. This paved the way for shows and toy lines like He-Man, G.I. Joe, and Transformers to do gangbusters business. This also made it possible for children in toy aisles to go absolutely bananas. See what I did there? Essentially, for the first time in decades, programs were allowed to be made that were 30-minute commercials directed at children. There were major concerns about how this would affect our generation, but I turned out just fine. For the most part.
It's over, Prime. We've lost.
No.
In his second display of anger, Prime now demands that Sideswipe give him his jetpack.
Give me your rocket pack.
My rocket pack?
Now!
Yeah, right.
So it seems suddenly that some characters have jetpacks and need those to fly. My god, what are the rules here?
Not yet, Megatron. Prime is right behind us. That's impossible.
So Prime chases the shuttle now with a rocket pack that's apparently fast enough to catch them as they reach escape velocity. All for naught, he's blasted out of the sky.
You got him! You got him!
It's Prime! He's been hit!
He's out of control!
Prime crashes down, and all hurry to help him. He gives one last flash of John Wayne anger.
I'm fine. I'm all right.
Let Ratchet check you out.
I said I'm fine.
You did all anyone could do, Prime.
I don't know. Maybe. Where's Mirage?
They suddenly realize the one guy who can turn invisible is nowhere to be seen. What an ironic twist.
At last, total victory is within my grasp.
Not yours, Megatron. Mine.
I see that you have learned nothing, Starscream. You failed to dispose of me when you had the chance, Starscream. Mistake number 2. If you dispose of me, there will always be someone waiting to dispose of you.
Starscream makes the dumbest grab for power ever. Before Megatron can wipe the floor with him, Mirage appears to sabotage the ship.
Autobot invader. Autobot invader.
Starscream blasts Mirage. Megatron uses this moment to knock Starscream on his ass.
Extinction to all traitors! Do something, Soundwave! Regain control!
Control impossible. Prepare for impact.
We're going to crash. We'll be destroyed.
I'll say hello to Prime for you, Megatron. Happy landing!
Stop him!
The Decepticons are defeated as their remains crash down into the ocean.
Look.
Mirage! You did it!
You stopped the Decepticons!
We knew you were anxious to get back to Cybertron, but at least you could have waited for us.
Sorry, Prime. The ship was full.
Well done, Mirage.
Well, let's get back to the base. We have a ship of our own to repair.
Can I go back to Cybertron with you?
Maybe you better ask your father.
Can I, Dad?
Only if I can go with you.
Back at Autobot Base, our heroes make the last preparations to board a shuttle back to Cybertron, which, for some reason, they never actually use or mention again. And the next time we see the Autobots, they're all still here on Earth.
Well, that's it from Earth. Next stop, Cybertron.
Ready, Spike? It's almost time to blast off.
I'll be right there, Prime. One more thing. I sure am glad we don't have to worry about Megatron and all those Decepticons anymore.
Anyways, we cut to a tag at the end of the episode, and the Decepticons are not quite dead. So, just keep collecting those toys, and we'll see you for the next episode. Well, congratulations. You have made it through 3 entire episodes of Transformers with me. And there are many, many more to come. But before we move on, before I end this episode, I do want to acknowledge some deep cuts in this very episode. And they are. Okay, first up, I'd like to acknowledge a voice that I wish could replace Suri on my phone.
Many millions of years ago, on the planet Cybertron, life existed. But not life as we know it today.
Victor Caroli was the narrator of all 3 seasons of the Transformers series. He was also featured in many of the original toy ads, as well as the Transformers animated movie in 1986.
By a single goal, total domination.
Next up, we have Decepticon Obscurity and fan favorite Reflector. Reflector began life as part of Takara's Microchange line. He was originally planned to be part of the original run of Transformers, but was pulled at the last second. He was pulled from development so late, in fact, that he actually makes it into most episodes of Season 1 and a handful of Season 2, but this toy was never released in North America. In the original G1 cartoon, Reflector was depicted and designed as 3 identical bots sharing one singular identity. However, in his original design, the Reflector being consisted of 3 separate individuals. They were named Spyglass, Spectro, and Viewfinder. Towards the end of the initial run of Transformers, this set was finally made available in North America, but only as a mail-away offer. Being a fan favorite, the franchise has brought Reflector back many times over the years in subsequent lines. Although sometimes for copyright reasons, he's named Refractor instead. With classic quotes like this, how could we ever quit him?
Stealing the
antimatter formula is gonna be a piece of oil cake.
Okay, so next up, we have this weird obscurity named Hauler. And if you look closely, Hauler looks a lot like Autobot Grapple from Season and Wave 2, who shares a body type with Autobot Fire Truck Inferno. There's never been an official confirmation, but it's very likely this is the same character that was planned, possibly pulled, saved for the second set, and just renamed Grapple with a different character personality. Hauler managed to live on in the minds of Transformers fans and creators alike. In subsequent years, he was brought back in many different universes and comic books. Boasting a new color scheme, he now gets new toys from the same mold as Inferno and Grapple, under the name Load Hauler.
It's up to you, Roller. Find out what's going on in there. And be careful.
Our next obscurity is Autobot Drone Roller, who originally came packaged with Optimus Prime. Both Prime and Roller originated from Takara's Diaclone line. These robots, before they were taken over by Hasbro, were not sentient beings. Instead, they were empty shells that were piloted by human or alien drivers. If you look closely, Optimus and Roller have spots where smaller figures were meant to fit inside of them. Roller is depicted as silver in the cartoon, as was his original release. Although most versions of Prime released after that were released with a blue Roller instead. Other versions of Optimus Prime released over the years have also included new versions of Roller. Some of them actually versions of him that transform and have a full personality onto themselves. However, our Roller is never seen or spoken of again after episodes 2 and 3 of the series, and is in no way a ripoff of R2-D2.
Down but not out. Roller's one tough little Autobot.
I absolutely love Ironhide, and I'll be talking more about him in future episodes. But I do want to acknowledge that this first pilot has two uses of his catchphrase, which I love, and it is...
Leaking lubricant. Leaping lubricant.
So, I think maybe the second time, did he say leaping lubricant or leaking lubricant? I'm not sure. I'm going to play it again. Tell me in the comments what you think. Here we go.
Leaping lubricant.
And then, of course, the phrase leaking lubricant made its way into the Michael Bay movie, which was given over to Bumblebee, a character who in that movie didn't actually have the power of speech. Do you remember how that played out? I remember how that played out.
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man.
Get that thing to stop, huh?
When Transformers premiered, most fans were immediately won over by the voice of Soundwave. Not only that, having one of the cooler toys, he was just one of the most desirable characters of all. The original run of toys also provided Soundwave with 5 cassette characters, all of which that could transform and fit within his chest compartment. However, in the original pilot, we only see 3 of the 5 appear. We see Laserbeak, Ravage, and Rumble. Although Ravage and Laserbeak are thought of as being Soundwave's pet minions, the original Soundwave was packaged with none other than Buzzsaw. Buzzsaw was a gold variation on Laserbeak's red paint job. I have looked long and hard, and I don't see Buzzsaw showing up anywhere in Season 1. I do know that he shows up in Season 2, and surprisingly at a few moments in Season 3. Our other missing tape is of course Frenzy, Rumble's twin brother. Often referred to as the red or blue one, it is important to note that when they were originally released, both of these characters had swapped names and colors in their bios. Somewhere in the production of the cartoon, the blue one became Rumble, and the red one became Frenzy. To this day, some fans still debate about which is which, but the blue one's Rumble and the red one's Frenzy as far as I'm concerned. Frenzy shows up soon enough in Season 1, and he's ready to talk a lot of smack, don't worry.
Hey, I didn't volunteer for this geeky assignment. I want Skywalk's job.
Butter, Frenzy. Geekworks made for a geek. Like you.
There's also this one shot that I've noticed, and it features a whole bunch of Decepticons all recolored just to make a crowd of a lot of Decepticons that can get killed off. And you see some different versions of maybe birds or versions of Rumble in there, and there's a lot of recoloring, but none of them are Frenzy, and none of them are Buzzsaw. And I looked, they're not there. There's a lot of little inconsistencies throughout, and these people did the best they could. They didn't have as much money as maybe they would want or the amount of time they had, but they really did something with what they had. And I would be really, really callous to sit here all these years later and point out every little production error that these people made. So here we go.
Okay, right off the bat, this perspective is all wrong and it makes me angry because it should look awesome. Wrong voice for Starscream.
Autobots, stop them!
And then in the next shot, it's 3 different characters. And then you see 6 characters, and then the original 3, and then Megatron's disembodied voice tells them,
After them!
Apparently they were missing a shot in the final edit because they show us something twice in a row here. So first, you see this action, and Optimus Prime says,
Prepare for battle!
Followed by Megatron saying, Okay, so these 2 guys speak, and then their voices switch.
Looks like a tornado hit this place.
I don't like it. Something's wrong.
Wait for it.
Real wrong.
Look out!
Okay, so then he helps him out of his little situation here. But then right before they leave and fly away, watch whose voice is coming from whose mouth.
Thanks, Brawn. Let's take off. There he is!
Again.
Get him! Fire! There he is! Get him! Fire! There he is! Get him! Fire!
Prowl speaks Optimus's lines.
We've got to work fast.
You think the Decepticons did this?
2 Starscreams. Look closely. 2 Rumbles, but not a Frenzy in a Rumble. This one's a little pet peeve, but it comes up a lot. If you watch this little shot, Optimus's head just switches back and forth. Drives me insane. Blue Streak has Bumblebee's head. These 3 have the right voices, but they're all over the place.
Come on, Prime. You can do it. Try harder. You got it. You got it.
Come on!
Ironhide has no missile launcher. Then he does. And then he doesn't. And then does. And then it comes out of his back. So then Ironhide fires his missile, and it strikes Skywarp, destroying his right rear tail fin. So he teleports behind Ironhide and Blue Streak. But when he reappears, his tail fin is perfectly fine. Again, we have another perspective problem that ruins some really nice artwork. Hound should be standing on the other side of that corner bar, but because he's not, it looks like he's really small and partway inside the cage. Ravage should totally be chomping on his ass right now. So in this first shot here, Megatron's gun is the correct color when he shoots Starscream, and then we cut back, and it is now off-model. Okay, can we talk about giant lab coats? Seriously. So the Autobots show up pretending to be a bunch of scientists, and they dress up in giant lab coats. So, did they find giant lab coats, or did they make giant lab coats? And if they made them, where did they get the giant sewing machines from? And also, who is this supposed to fool? Were the Decepticons supposed to think they were really large humans? Or... I have so many questions right now. Like, these giant springs. The Decepticons have giant springs. There are no springs this size on planet Earth, so they had to make the springs. So when it comes to springs and lab coats, I can't help but wonder why spend so much time making these things when you could have been either attacking and or defending the rocket fuel. I need to go outside and talk to some actual human beings.
Well, that's just about all I can say about the first 3 episodes of Transformers without embarrassing myself, at least any more than I already have, but that's the internet for you. So, with that, we'll be on our way, and I'll be back next time with another episode. We'll be looking at episode 4, Transport to Oblivion. I hope you'll come back. Please subscribe, share this video, and I'll see you next time.